So we decided to take magic mushrooms. The season had rolled around again. I hadn't tried them before. Quite a few guys I knew hadn't tried them before. So we tried them. I had a fair bit of acid up to this point, but I'd never taken mushrooms. There was about 8 or 9 of us collecting magic mushies, and we filled essentially a standard plastic bag, Tesco's carrier, that kind of thing. And to what we could only equate to be something like 1,500 to 2,000 possibly. It's a fair amount anyway. Now, it seems fairly obvious, but we didn't really understand that you didn't have to take every single mushroom that you'd picked. And that was essentially where we went wrong. Although there was 8 or 9 of us out picking the mushrooms, ended up only 3 of us, me, Mark Brunton and Gary Fotheringham, that decided to actually take the mushrooms. So, we set about making the brew. Essentially that was possibly the worst thing I've ever drank in my entire life. It was, all I could kind of equate it to would be like the fat from a Sunday roast, all the scrapings through the bottom of the oven mixed in with a big pile of hot snot. It's probably the closest I could think. The remedy for this was to sit with a bottle of ice cold iron brew beside you, and so you guzzled your brew, your mushy brew, and then you drank the iron brew. This worked to some degree to stop us from vomiting, but it took all our will to keep the brew down. So anyway, our stupidity led us to take this vast amount of mushrooms between the 3 of us, and we proceeded to wander out into the streets, and it was a weird night, really misty, and it had this feeling like we were indoors. As we were marching along, we realised that we weren't laughing as much as we had in the past, taking acid and stuff, and that there was this kind of collective sense of foreboding happening. And we made it up to the motorway bridge, and I looked over the side of the bridge and saw what I can only describe as a molten motorway that was spinning and jigging about in a kind of fractal kind of motion. It was pretty wild. Brunton started being violently sick at the side of the motorway bridge, and me and Gary were trying to console him. And I said to him, "You'll be all right, we're only tripping, we'll be coming down at some point." And Brunton looked up at me with vomit hanging from his face and said, "No, we're never coming down off this one." So, at that point, I moved round to the other side of him to try and console him further, and stepped in quite possibly the biggest dog shite I've ever seen in my life, bearing in mind I was tripping out my face. So I stood in that, smeared it about a wee bit, and moved back round to the other side of him to continue consoling him, with Gary also trying to console him for a slightly further distance. At which point I moved back round to his left side that had just been previous, and stood in the shite again. I proceeded to do this about 4 or 5 times, and just turned the dog shite into this big smear on the pavement, and on my shoe, up the side of my shoe, and on my trousers. I wasn't needing this. So anyway, we walked about for the next few hours away with it. Gary was convinced I was reading his mind. I wasn't. I just thought the world was melting, and I've never felt so much fear and foreboding in all my life. We eventually got back to the sanctity of Brunton's Grands, where we had a wee bit of dope sitting. I was going to try and skin up. Me and Gary decided that I would get a go. Brunton wasn't in the best state to converse with anybody. He was actually sitting or lying, leaning against his stereo, eating cigarettes. So we tried to stop him from doing this, bearing in mind that we needed them for doobies. And he insisted on, we managed to stop him from eating the fags, but he insisted on playing the most ludicrous, brain damage, sort of acid techno music. It just wasn't helping. Just as an aside, his gran had a wicked turquoise, paisley patterned carpet, which wasn't helping the situation either. So anyway, I was trying to skin up, and my fingers were fat, greasy, oil-covered sausages, or at least that's how they looked. Skins were just sticking to my hands and falling apart, and skinning up was close to impossible. The other guys that were meant to be tripping came bursting into the house, and I think they were going to take the piss out of us, but as they burst in, they realised that we weren't really set to be wound up. And actually they proceeded to skin up for us and essentially look after us. Funnily enough, a wee while after that, I suddenly felt like I was coming down, and I really enjoyed the trip from that point on. But I never took mushies again.